Okay then, now we're going to look at another question of the 2013 paper, the LA2. And the question is, explain the background to the European Convention on Human Rights and the UK's relationship to the Convention prior to 1998. Now do remember to read both the questions on this paper, and you'll notice that the next question talks about the impact of the human rights. So this is all before we actually had the enactment of the Human Rights Act in 1998. So that's the first thing to note. So let's do it in quite a well-structured fashion. We want a strong structure, so we're going to start off with what actually prompted the convention in the first place, and that was World War II. So all the monstrosities that actually happened, genocide and so forth in World War II, the idea of having this convention was to really recognise important civil liberties and rights, so that wouldn't happen again. The convention was actually established in 1950 and really strengthened, became an international treaty in 1953. Now, it was so important, and remember this is an area really of international law, that 40 states signed up to this and actually incorporated the convention into their domestic law. Of course, remember, we didn't do that in our law until 1998. However, what is interesting is that when we think of the convention rights, they don't only just sit in the human rights section, and as we think about it, the European Court of Human Rights, but they also sit within our European law as well, European Union law, which is to do with trade. Convention rights, however, weren't just recognised in the convention themselves and in the European Court of Human Rights since 1966. They were also noted as important in Article 164 of the Treaty of Rome in 1957. These rights are encouraged, therefore, not only through the European Court of Human Rights, but also through the Court of Justice of the European Union. So we can see this crossover between European law, European Union law, and the human rights in this particular case. So P versus S and Cornwall. And in this case, the plaintiff was dismissed from her employment because she was a transsexual. She applied to the UK courts to claim that she'd been discriminated against, and this was rejected by the courts. The case was then heard by the Court of Justice of the European Union, who referred to the European Court of Human Rights judgment in Re Reis, 1986. And because of this, it concluded that the European Equal Treatment Directive had been breached, as this directive encapsulated the fundamental principle of equality. So here we can see there is that crossover between trade law, European Union law, and human rights. So the convention is connected to both. We also need to mention, when we talk about the background to the European Convention of Human Rights, the political context. Now, at that time, and still it's the same idea now, is the Conservatives are very much against the European Convention in the form of certainly being incorporated into our law. But the Labour Party were very supportive of it and in fact pushed through the enactment of the Human Rights Act. So we've got to recognise that. The Conservatives were very worried about parliamentary sovereignty. Therefore, were we being controlled by influences outside our country, European law? Was our parliament being controlled? So please look at that. Now note as well, in this question, you've got to refer to the source. Okay, and you'll see on the source that you have the impact of the convention, and this was before 1998, the enactment of the Human Rights Act. And you've got a number of referrals to the European Court of Human Rights. So note the countries, note who had most referrals. You'll see that it's Italy that had most. This gives you an idea of how important the convention actually was. And even with the UK, we've still got, as you'll notice, 95 referrals. We have adverse judgments, you'll notice, at 47. Therefore, that's where the European Court of Human Rights didn't agree with our original decision. So that's gone through all the main information that you need to include in this answer. So make sure you read your notes at the same time as watching this video, and then write the question out for yourself.